This is really all about how I try to make myself interesting in order to write interesting strategies, I guess. And I think the first thing to say is probably maybe Nick's endpoint. Maybe I'm slightly more vociferous about it. I've always been slightly ambivalent about communications. I've been slightly ambivalent about communications. I'm slightly ambivalent about brands. And I'm also slightly ambivalent about agencies. They're not the things that I get really excited about. And I think it's quite visible in what I do. Quite a lot of when I have appraisals and things, people say, you seem a bit 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're really into it. You're really up for it. And the answer is no. I'm not. And the things I like aren't all that stuff. What I like are ideas. I really, really like ideas. I'm thrilled by ideas. They make me excited. I think about them all the time. I think about ideas in almost everything. And so really this presentation is about me looking for ideas everywhere. This is the viaduct at a place called Bolcombe. So I live in Brighton, and every day I get the train from Brighton to London and back from London to Brighton. And every day, when I remember and I haven't started reading or whatever, I get my phone out and I video the 15 seconds on the train over the viaduct at Bolcombe. And at the moment, I have, I think, 317 15-second films of the view from the viaduct at Bolcombe. And I think that when I look at the view, I think lots of things. In part, it sort of always seems to me like a divider between my home life and my work life. But more importantly than that, I mean, it's really beautiful. If you've never been on that train and looked at that view, you should definitely go and do it because it's an incredible view. But the reason I like it, and I've included it here, is because it sort of makes me think that I get why painters like Monet kept just painting the same thing over and over again. I mean, I live in Brighton, I go to the seaside a lot, and the sea is just like that, right? You go there, and every time you go there, it's completely different. And that is the same as the view over the viaduct at Bolcombe. And I'm endlessly fascinated by it. It's the best part of my day by a million miles, that view and that 15 seconds. The reason I've included it here, though, is because I've never been one of those people who likes to recycle strategies. It makes me really annoyed when briefs come in and it's new business and someone goes, oh, yeah, we've done that. We've done this. I know the answer to that. It's just like, And every time I hear that, I think, no, it's never just like, because it's a completely different brief. It's a different brand. It's a different context. A ton of stuff has happened since whatever it was that you were working on happened. And of course, it's not the same brand. And so every time I look at the view over the viaduct at Bolcombe, I think, I'm just going to think about ideas and brands and communications tasks in and of themselves. I always start with a blank sheet of paper, always. I never, ever think I know the answer. I like to find out some stuff first. I like to talk to some people first. I like to dig around a bit and find some ways to stimulate my thinking. This is me, walking. It's not actually representative because, as you can tell from this bit of film, I am holding my phone down at the pavement, which I don't very often do, so I did do this for the purposes of a presentation. But I do love walking, and not just the act of walking. I like walking because what I get to see when I walk is everything around me. I like to look at everything. I like to look at people. I like to look at buildings around me. I like to take in everything because I think there are ideas everywhere around me. I look at shops, I look at what people are doing. I started a presentation recently by saying on the first day in my current job, I walked out to get a lunch or a coffee, and as I was walking past the bus stop, I think it was a Thursday morning, weirdly, the girl standing at the bus stop was sick on the pavement in front of me. And I thought, Sarah and I were discussing how great Camden is because it's kind of real. But I remember thinking then, brilliant, people are still going out and getting shit-faced on a Thursday night. It must have been a Friday morning. Shit-faced on a Thursday night, and that was quite reassuring. And I was also quite pleased it wasn't me having that hideous hangover and puking at the bus stop on a Friday morning. You get the gist. But I really like to look around me. I like to see what people are doing. I'm quite nosy. Camden's full of people sort of having fights. Some people are getting kicked out of the Sainsbury's for stealing stuff. I just like it. There's a lot of life in it, and I really like places with a lot of life. I think, I was thinking about it while Nick was talking, I don't think I've got any pictures in here that aren't pictures that I haven't taken. So it's a really obvious thing. It's not one that I thought I would love about having an iPhone and a camera on a phone, but actually what I love most about the phone is my ability to get it out of my pocket and take pictures of the stuff that I see in front of me. And here are 4. I think you'd probably describe them as deeply uninspiring pictures, actually. So over here I am on the tube. I try to go on the tube and public transport and walk as much as I possibly can because that's where people are. This is the walk from Euston Station up to Greater London House. This is the train platform at Brighton, where I spend a lot of time. And this is a cafe that lies just between King's Cross and Greater London House, which I walk past every morning. And I love seeing these people because they're always sitting outside it, having breakfast. And I love looking at those things. So, yeah, I'm looking for ideas all the time. That's what I'm interested in, and I'm going to use those ideas in writing strategies. Sometimes I'm going to use those ideas, and I'm going to write strategies back off them, and I'm going to get creatives to write the ideas that I've written into my strategies. But I look for them in people too. I'm really interested in people. I really like people. I'm a huge, huge believer in any project that if you don't get to talk to some real people about the thing that you're thinking about or the thing that you're trying to get them to do, then you are missing out. Here are 2 people that I was interested in very recently. Here's a chap, he was on the tube, and I don't know if you can read that, but he had this tattoo on the back of his neck. I was standing behind him, and there were the doors, and so I got my phone out, and a load of people around me were like, shit, don't take that picture. What happens if he turns around and twats you? But it says Made in England on the back of his neck, which I thought was sort of interesting. And this, on the other side, is Tom. Tom's Croatian. He came into the agency the other day. We paid him to do it, and he came in to tell me about a job he was doing, and he was telling me about his job for a new business submission that we're working on. But I think that people are vital. You have to talk to people. You have to understand what they think about the thing that you're thinking about the brands that you're thinking about. Because I think we often assume that we're the target audience, and I think our clients assume that they're the target audience, and we're pretty far away from them most of the time, and our clients are, as a rule, even further away. So I think it's really, really important. And it's not just important, it's also just that point of engaging with people and thinking about them and thinking about what they're like and understanding their lives. And I don't know, I think it's just fascinating. So, back to old Tom Morton, I think I agree. I think you can't be a good planner and get to good ideas without really thinking about people. I look at images. I look at images everywhere. I mean, I was fascinated by these. So that one I took a picture of today, rag and bone, on a poster on the side of Coco, which is closed down at the moment. And these 2 came from magazines. We'll come on to that later because I agree with Nick's point about magazines. But I was fascinated by these because they're all the same. Oh my God, here are 3 women. Well, she hasn't got a T-shirt on, but the other 2, there's like this normcore thing going on there, isn't there? They've got the jeans and the white T-shirt, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm interested in fashion, and I thought they're beautiful, but yeah, hard to see the differences going on. So I look everywhere, take lots of pictures. And of course, I look in books and magazines and newspapers. I mean, I don't just look, I read them and I plunder them. So back to the magazines. My favourite thing about going into Victoria Station, if I go there instead of King's Cross in the morning, is they've got one of those magazine stands. You know, the ones that you get in media companies. They've probably got one downstairs here, haven't you? And they have a load of random titles on there. And I always read all the random titles. I've put Closer in there. So I was having a look at Closer at my desk the other day. And someone in the company came in and he was like, oh, have you got an account man? You've got time to read magazines? And I said, I'm not reading a magazine. Oh, I'm reading a magazine, but I'm reading it because I like to look at the titles and ideas and the sorts of things that the target audience on whatever it was I was thinking about are reading. So I think really important to immerse yourself in a target audience world. Obviously, the rest are largely books. I mean, I'm a massive reader. I think books contain all sorts of interesting stylistic and thematic, philosophical ideas. You can see I'm not really a snob. I mean, I'd probably say I read a lot of sort of popular and literary fiction. I was going to go on to say I don't really go a bundle on marketing books. I have to make the exception for How to Plan, of course, because that's a brilliantly practical tool for planning. But I do have to include, which I haven't read yet, but is on my pile and arrived yesterday, Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders and How to Fix It, which I admit to very much looking forward to. I'll report back. But the others are all books I've read. I mean, I think, you know, some of them are, sort of Joan Didion. Never read any Joan Didion before recently. Some of them are kind of a bit chick lit-ish, and I don't discriminate. Love that stuff. I read, and sort of pretty much anything that comes my way. I'm not big on science fiction and fantasy, I have to admit. But everything else, I'll read it if I possibly can. I think read everything, and I do. I take bits from it. I use quotes from books. I take snippets from magazines. I use it all. Here are some of those snippets. I mean, I have to admit, Metro forms part of my daily reading, which I'm sure Metro and the Standard, which I'm sure it will form more part of your daily reading too. But I like bits and bobs, and I use these. I save them. I mean, you can see here. I have to explain magnifique meetings up here. So I went to a meeting we had to present to a client at Heathrow Airport. And we were in one of those weird conference centres, and in it they have those like leather sets on the table, and on the front of this leather set on the table it said magnifique meetings. And I was like, it definitely wasn't a magnifique meeting, but I'm going to use something about that meeting setting and the fact it wasn't very magnifique at some point. I enjoyed reading that Travelodge are going to start hiring mums and dads and give them hours that fall between school hours. Wow, what a thought. Brilliant, isn't it? I've already recycled that thought and given it to a couple of people and retailers that we work with as a suggestion for how they might recruit. Here we are, old Alexandria, talking about vulnerability. Brilliant. Oh, I loved this. So one of the brands I work on is Viagra, and I read this thing about infection risk for sexually adventurous over 50s. So internet dating has transformed, I'm very happily, the sex lives of over 50s, but the trouble with that is now they're all going at it, and there are more sexually transmitted diseases around, so that's really interesting. Notice the upper class really do think they're better today, which I thought was fascinating. Maybe it's today or yesterday, but I love this stuff. I find these bits and I take pictures of it and I think, yeah, I'm going to be able to use that. And I always do. There's always a brand, there's always a presentation, there's always something where I can use the fact that a woman called Sabine Weyand, we were talking about Brexit, sorry to mention it, but it's just this bit. I read this about her. The messenger was the EU's deputy Brexit negotiator, Sabine Weyand, the German official with a British sense of humour who loves Shakespeare and Harry Potter and has been known to describe any outlandish idea as bollocks. I mean, she's my favourite person of all time already. I thought it was incredible. So I guess my point here is I plunder everything. I read everything. And I don't think it makes me better or different to anyone else. All I think I do is connect stuff together. So I find these bits and bobs, and I find ideas I like, and I find little snippets, and I keep them. I squirrel them away, usually on my phone, and later I'll be scrolling through going, oh, I've got a thing that I've got to use, and I get them out later, and I use them to get to ideas. And of course, I I find ideas everywhere I go. So, you know, here's my life, bits of it, that's the level in Brighton, soft play, hell, also good. All these things are kind of levelers, right? You see a ton of people in these situations. No one's better than anyone else in soft play, I can guarantee it. It's pretty hardcore there. Looks, I think I posted this on Instagram and said I'm in at Dante's actual Inferno, which is what it felt like when I went there. There I am in Brighton Beach, probably in my favourite position of all time, lying down on warm pebbles. Beaches are another brilliant place. You watch a lot of people, see a lot of life. Bit of graffiti on the way to up past Sainsbury's to the station. Here was a Brighton Festival's on at the moment, and at the weekend, big excitement in Queen's Park in Brighton, where I live, because they've suspended this moon over the pond in the local park, and everybody turned out, local park people, to see this moon. So that was pretty exciting. And obviously the sea, which I, you know, look at all the time. But everywhere I go, I look for people, I look for things, I look for situations, I take pictures, and I use them all the time. And of course, I listen out for ideas. So my current listenings are pretty much obsessively around, oh, Lizzo. If you haven't listened to Lizzo, you should. She will transform your life. Chris and Billie Eilish, who I think is, you know, apparently the kids are into her, but I think she's absolutely fantastic. And I think music is another place that I plunder for ideas, for lyrics, for thematic ideas. You know, if ever you want a feminist tract, Because I Love You is it. So yeah, I look for ideas everywhere I go. And of course, the other thing I do, God, I love TV. I mean, I absolutely love TV. I watch out for ideas. I mean, of course, we've all watched Fleabag and you know, the usuals. I'm sort of getting into Mum. Never watched that before, but really enjoying it. The Virtue's up there, going to be brilliant. Chernobyl I've sort of started, but I had to turn off a couple of times because it's pretty grim. But for me, these are examples of there is incredible writing, incredible ideas, incredible talent in television, and I plunder those ideas endlessly. You know, let's face it, every creative presentation at the moment is pretty much going to involve something to do with Fleabag. We've already seen them all. Sorry, have I gone over my time? Okay, nearly done. But, you know, TV for me, I absolutely love TV, and I think the quality in TV at the moment is really worth watching and plundering. I should also, there was one I didn't put on here, which was a Welsh thing called Keeping Faith. You can watch it in Welsh or you can watch it in English. If you haven't seen it, you should have a look. And as I said, I keep all these things. I keep them all in my head or on my phone, or I write them down somewhere, and I find a way to use them. There's always a way to use them. I wait, and a brief comes up, a brand comes up, and I think, yeah, I'm going to use that thing, that photo I took in some weird place in Camden. And that is it. One last slide. The quieter you become, the more you can hear. I haven't been very quiet today, but I guess my principle is I like to look around and listen and use everything that I can hear and see in being a more interesting person and writing more interesting strategies. Thank you.